On a bitter winter night in 1692, in a small Puritan settlement at the edge of the New World, two young girls began to scream. Their bodies twisted in ways no one could explain. They claimed invisible hands were pinching them, choking them, whispering names in the dark. Within months, those whispers would become accusations. The accusations would become trials, and the trials would become executions. By the time the fear burned itself out, an entire community called Salem would be scarred forever, and America would inherit one of the darkest cautionary tales in its history. Salem Village, in what is now Massachusetts, was not a place of magic or mystery. It was a rigid, deeply religious farming community governed by strict Puritan beliefs. Life revolved around church, work, and obedience to God's laws as interpreted by local ministers. The world, they believed, was a battleground between God and the devil, and Satan was always looking for human agents to do his work. This belief was not metaphorical, it was literal, terrifying, and constant. In January of 1692, Reverend Samuel Parris noticed something disturbing in his household. His 9-year-old daughter, Biddy Parris, and his 11-year-old niece, Abigail Williams, began behaving strangely. They screamed uncontrollably, crawled under furniture, complained of biting pains, and fell into violent fits. Local doctors, unable to find a physical cause, reached for the explanation that fit their worldview best: witchcraft. Once the word was spoken aloud, it spread like fire in dry grass. Under pressure from adults and authorities, the girls began to name names. The first accused were 3 women who stood on the margins of Puritan society: Tituba, an enslaved woman from the Caribbean owned by Reverend Parris; Sarah Good, a poor beggar who often muttered to herself; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who had defied social norms by remarrying and neglecting church attendance. These women were easy targets: different, disliked, unprotected. When Tituba was interrogated, she did something unexpected. Instead of denying the charges, she confessed. She spoke of flying through the night, of signing the devil's book, of animals that acted as demonic familiars. Whether she was coerced, terrified, or trying to save her life by telling the judges what they wanted to hear, her confession confirmed the community's worst fears. If one witch existed, then surely there were more. The machinery of hysteria began to turn. Arrests multiplied rapidly. Children accused adults, servants accused masters, neighbors accused neighbors over old grudges, land disputes, or whispered resentments. The court accepted spectral evidence, meaning that if an accuser saw the spirit or apparition of the accused harming them, it was treated as valid proof, even if no one else could see it. This legal standard erased the boundary between imagination and guilt. By the spring of 1692, Salem Village and the surrounding towns were in chaos. Fear governed daily life. A careless word, a moment of anger, or even personal success could draw suspicion. To be accused was almost to be condemned. To maintain innocence was dangerous, because those who confessed were often spared execution, while those who denied witchcraft were seen as defiant servants of the devil. Among the accused were respected church-going citizens, proving that no one was safe. Rebecca Nurse, a 71-year-old woman known for her piety and kindness, was charged with witchcraft after years of quiet community tension. Despite widespread support and an initial verdict of not guilty, the judges reversed the decision under pressure from accusers' hysterical outbursts in the courtroom. Rebecca Nurse was sentenced to death. The executions began in June. Bridget Bishop was the first to hang. She was accused of wearing flashy clothing, arguing with her husband, and behaving in ways deemed inappropriate for a Puritan woman. None of this mattered. On June 10, 1692, she was taken to Gallows Hill and executed.
Over the next 3 months, 19 people would be hanged, and one man, Giles Corey, would be pressed to death under heavy stones for refusing to plead a plea. Giles Corey's death became one of the most haunting moments of the trials. An elderly farmer, he knew that if he pleaded guilty or innocent, his property could be seized, leaving his family destitute. By refusing to plead, he protected his estate, but at a terrible cost. As stones were piled onto his chest, he reportedly uttered only 2 words in response to demands for a plea: "More weight." He died in agony, a symbol of quiet resistance against madness. Inside the courtroom, the trials resembled theater more than justice. Accusers screamed, fainted, and convulsed whenever the accused looked at them. Judges interpreted these performances as supernatural proof. Ministers debated theology while lives hung in the balance. The governor's wife was eventually accused, causing political shockwaves that forced the authorities to pause and reconsider the proceedings. By October 1692, doubts finally began to surface. Influential ministers, including Puritan warned against the dangers of spectral evidence. Public confidence in the trials eroded as the accusations grew increasingly absurd. Governor Pitts dissolved the court appointed permanent and ordered a new court to disallow spectral evidence. Many remaining prisoners were released. The hysteria ended almost as abruptly as it had begun. In the aftermath, Salem was left to reckon with what it had done. Families were shattered, property had been seized, reputations were destroyed.